Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we try to make sense of all the corporate jargon. Today we are dissecting a really interesting filing from Aptevo Therapeutics Incorporated. It is a proxy statement, which means it is all about getting stockholders on the same page for a big meeting. And boy, do they have some big things to discuss. We are talking about potential new stock issuances and major changes to their foundational company documents. So buckle up, it's going to be a dive into what really matters for Aptevo's future. Before we dive in, if you appreciate getting straight insights from these complex corporate documents, make sure you are subscribed. We also have a Discord community linked in the description below where we talk more about these things. Alright, so this document is officially a Schedule 14A, which is essentially a proxy statement. Think of it as the company's official invitation and explanation for a special stockholder meeting. This particular meeting is scheduled for the 18th of February 2026, and it's going to be held entirely online, which is pretty common these days to save on costs and make it easier for everyone to attend. The company Aptevo Therapeutics Incorporated is asking its shareholders to vote on a few key things. The first major item, Proposal 1, is to approve an amendment and restatement of their certificate of incorporation. Now that sounds super technical, but basically it's a way to clean up and update their company's foundational rules. It's like giving their company's constitution a facelift to include past changes and clarify how their special preferred stock works. This is mostly about tidying up the legal house. Then we get to Proposal 2, which is the really juicy part of this filing. This is about approving the potential issuance of a significant chunk of the company's stock 19.99% or more to a company called Yatu PN Incorporated, also known as Yorkville. This is happening under something called a Standby Equity Purchase Agreement, or SEPA. The reason they need stockholder approval is because it's a large issuance of stock, and NASDAQ rules require it, particularly rules 5635 and 5635B. And finally, Proposal 3 is a fallback. It's a proposal to allow the meeting to be adjourned if they don't get enough votes on the first two proposals. This is pretty standard practice to give them more time to gather support. Aptevo Therapeutics Inc. is headquartered in Seattle, Washington. They are working in the competitive biotechnology space, specifically focusing on developing novel therapeutics. Imagine companies that are trying to find new medicines and treatments for diseases. It is a sector that requires a lot of capital for research and development. And that is where these financial arrangements often come into play. Now let's talk about how everything works. The meeting is virtual, and you'll need a control number from your proxy card to log in. If you are a stockholder of record, meaning the shares are directly in your name, you can vote in a few ways by attending the virtual meeting, by phone, by internet, or by mail. If your shares are held in street name, meaning they are held by a broker or bank on your behalf, you will need to follow their instructions, and you might need a special proxy form to vote at the meeting. So to recap, you are voting on 1. Cleaning up and updating the company's main legal document. 2. Approving a large potential stock issuance to raise capital. 3. Allowing for an adjournment if needed. The board of directors is recommending a 4 vote on all 3 proposals. This tells us they really want these things to happen. Generally, the board does not expect any other significant business to be brought up. However, if something unexpected does arise, the people holding your proxy will vote according to their best judgment. This is important. If you are a stockholder of record and do not vote, your shares will simply not be voted. But for those with shares held in street name, if you do not instruct your broker how to vote, your broker might only be able to vote on routine matters. The stock issuance proposal, that's Proposal 2. Is considered non-routine. This means your broker cannot vote your shares on that proposal without your specific instructions. So if you don't vote on Proposal 2 and your shares are with a broker, your vote will not be part of the decision. The company is footing the bill for all of this. They have even hired a firm called Okapi Partners LLC to help with getting the word out and collecting votes. They are paying them a fee of $15,000 plus expenses. This shows they are serious about getting stockholder support. Yes, you can. You can change your vote any time before the meeting concludes. You can do this by submitting a new proxy card, voting again by phone or internet, sending a written notice, or by voting at the virtual meeting itself. The company is also giving a heads up about deadlines for next year. If you want to include a proposal in their next year's proxy materials, it needs to be submitted by the 5th of March 2026. For nominations of directors or other business that you want to present at the annual meeting, there are specific timelines outlined, usually between March and April of the following year. This is all about corporate governance and making sure everyone has a fair chance to propose ideas. We touched on this earlier. A broker non-vote happens when your broker doesn't have instructions from you on a non-routine matter and therefore cannot vote your shares. These votes are counted for a quorum, meaning they help make the meeting valid, but they do not count for or against the proposal. The key takeaway here is that for Proposal 2, the stock issuance, it's crucial to vote if you hold shares in street name, otherwise your vote will not be counted on that important decision. Proposal 1. The amendment to the Certificate of Incorporation needs a majority of all outstanding shares to vote. For it, this is a high bar. If there are broker non-votes or abstentions, they count as against for this proposal. Proposals 2 and 3, the stock issuance and adjournment, require a majority of the votes that are actually cast. Abstentions and broker non-votes do not affect the outcome of these votes. To have a valid meeting, at least 1/3 of the company's outstanding shares must be present either virtually or by proxy. So 997,830 shares are outstanding, meaning about 332,610 shares need to be accounted for. To have a quorum, abstentions and broker non-votes do count towards this quorum. This is where the real-world consequences become clear. If Proposal 2, the stock issuance approval, fails, Aptevo's ability to raise funds could be significantly hampered. They might struggle to fund operations, research, and business development. They could be forced to look for less favorable financing options, which could be even more dilutive to existing shareholders. The company believes this SEPA agreement is in their best interest to provide a flexible source of capital. Preliminary results will be announced at the meeting, and final results will be filed in a report with the SEC shortly after. Now, let's move on to the most exciting part, what this actually looks like in terms of the company's foundational document. This is the big document they want to amend. It lays out the very core of how Aptevo Therapeutics Incorporated is structured. The proposed changes are mostly about bringing together previous amendments, making sure the company's address is current, confirming its existence is perpetual, and clarifying some voting rules. Crucially, it also formally designates the series a junior participating preferred stock. Let's check out some of the details of this Certificate of Incorporation. This part lays out the authorized stock. They have 500 million shares of common stock and 15 million shares of preferred stock. Within that preferred stock, 15,000 are specifically designated as series a junior participating preferred stock. This series of stock is interesting because it has a very high per share voting power equivalent 1,000 votes per share. This is a significant detail that can very quickly shift voting control if these shares are ever issued in a meaningful way. Here we see a history of reverse stock splits. There was a 1-for-14 reverse split in March 2020, then a 1-for-44 in March 2024, and another one for -20 in May 2025. These are very aggressive reverse splits. They typically happen when a company's stock price has fallen very low, and they want to increase the per share price to meet exchange listing requirements or to appear more stable. This section goes deep into the rights of the series of preferred stock. It details how dividends are paid with a preference over common stock. It also mentions a significant voting right. If dividends are in arrears by 6 quarterly payments, the holders of series of preferred stock get to elect 2 additional directors. This is a powerful tool to influence the board if the company's financial performance falters. This table gives us a snapshot of who owns what. It's important for understanding who has influence. We see several funds like Armistice Capital Master Fund Limited, Alter Opportunity Master Fund, CVI Investments Inc., and others listed as beneficial owners. Some of them hold significant percentages like CVI Investments Inc., with 8.40%. The company is still relatively small, so these ownership percentages represent a substantial say in company affairs. Notably, no current executive officers or directors individually own a significant percentage of the common stock, with Grady Grant III owning a very small amount. This suggests the company is heavily owned by institutional investors and potentially arbitrage funds, which can create interesting dynamics. This part is more about how they send out these documents. They are using a method called householding, where multiple stockholders at the same address receive only one copy of the proxy materials. This is a cost-saving measure. It also means that if you want separate copies, you need to specifically tell your broker or the company. This is a standard legal disclosure. Companies include this to protect themselves by stating that any predictions or statements about the future are based on current expectations and could change. It's a way to manage expectations and limit liability related to future performance. This seems to be a very broad statement about the company's purpose. It means Aptevo can pretty much do anything that is legally allowed for a corporation. Now let's look at the financial implications here. While this document is a proxy statement and not a financial report like a 10Q, The SEPA proposal gives us a clear window into their financial needs and strategy. This SEPA agreement is a big deal. Aptevo can sell up to $60 million of its common stock to Yorkville over 36 months. The key thing is that Aptevo controls the timing and amount of these sales. They are purchasing the stock at a discount, specifically 96% of the lowest daily volume weighted average price over a 3-day period. This is a financing mechanism that can provide capital when needed, but it comes with a deliberate discount which is dilutive to existing shareholders. This tells us the full $60 million facility is still available. They have not drawn down any significant portion of it yet. This is important. The approval of the stock issuance is independent of the other proposals. So what does this all mean? Aptevo Therapeutics Inc. is in a position where they need capital, likely for its research and development activities. They've secured a facility with Yorkville that allows them to sell stock at a discount when they decide they need cash. The fact that they are seeking to potentially issue more than 19.99% of their stock under this agreement and need shareholder approval for it signals they might anticipate needing a substantial amount of funding in the near future, potentially pushing beyond the typical limits without shareholder consent. The aggressive reverse stock splits we saw earlier also indicate that the stock price has historically been very low, which can sometimes signal underlying business challenges or a long road to profitability. The significant ownership by various funds suggests these entities have a deep interest in the company, and their votes on these proposals will be critical. The company's strategy here seems to be securing a flexible financing line that they can tap into as needed. The SEPA provides this flexibility, but the cost is dilution for existing shareholders. The board's recommendation to vote for all proposals underscores their belief that this is the best path forward for the company, likely to fund its pipeline of potential therapeutics. However, the need for such a large potential stock issuance, coupled with the history of aggressive reverse splits, does raise questions. Are they facing significant funding gaps? How efficient are their R&D efforts if they require such substantial external capital? Existing shareholders should carefully consider the dilutive impact of this SEPA, especially if they plan to issue a large percentage of the company's stock at a discount. Aptevo Therapeutics Inc. is looking to clean up its foundational documents and secure a vital capital lifeline through the SEPA. The decision rests heavily on shareholders, particularly on the crucial stock issuance proposal. The company's direction is clear: pursue its therapeutic development by tapping into this financing. But the potential dilution is a significant factor for investors to weigh. Alright, that is our deep dive into Aptevo Therapeutics Inc. Proxy statement, what's your take on these proposals and what they signal for the company's future? Do you think this SEPA is genius or a sign of trouble? Drop your thoughts in the comments below if this analysis was valuable. Hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more. Don't forget to check out the Discord community linked in the description where we can continue this conversation. Thanks for watching. See you next time.